Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Performance E Streaming. I hope you are all doing well tonight on this, the Thursday night. It is playoff season for the ANZCAR Cup. We're in round number 30 of 36, race 4 of the playoffs, and it is Texas, baby. Yes, everything is bigger in Texas, and that means the racing as well. I'm, as ever, Mr. Carl Wilkinson with the up here in the booth, joined on cams and on comms tonight by Mr. Matt Hunter. Matt, how you going, mate?
Yeah, going good, Carl. Yep, looking forward to this one as well. Obviously, resetting the points as well, so it should be interesting to go from there.
Absolutely, and as Matt said, a little bit of a reset there. So now everybody has to get a win under their belt to proceed to the final round of the playoffs, or get those points in the bag. Only 8 drivers in there now. Norman Clark in 8th, 7th is Jai Schultz, 6th is Lachlan Oakweir, Andrew Dyson in 5th, Dave Douglas 4th, Matty Ray in 3rd, 2nd for Ruben Phelps, and Neil Pearson up in the lead at the moment, coming into this round of the playoffs. But of course, it's in the next section, so we lost Daniel Hedershide and Joshua Carroll-Walden from the mix, but it does mean that Neil Pearson has to get another win to secure himself into that next round, and he's been having an absolute blinder start in the play so far in the play, so he could well do that. Let's run through the starting grid for tonight's racing, and it is Andrew Dyson taking pole position with teammate Philip Worley on his outside. Ruben Phelps and Ryan Jones make up row number 2. On row number 3, it's Brenton Henderson with Mr. Matty Ray. Row number 4 sees Stevie Dove and Norman Clark lining up next to each other. Alexander Sheridan and Dave Douglas make up row number 5. Row 6 is Brad Fenley with Shane Bowen. Luke Crum, Neil Pearson make up our 7th row tonight. It's Lockie Oakweir with Jai Schultz on row number 8. Row number 9 sees Chris Tomlin next to Riley Curtis. And Christopher Island lines up next to Kobe Jordan on row number 10 tonight for this 20-car field here at Texas for the playoff races. So it's a lot of work these drivers are going to need to do, and they're going to have to make sure it all works out. We've seen the orange DPR car of Andrew Dyson have a shocking start to his playoff season. He will not want to have a similar thing occur tonight, because he needs to get a strong result tonight just to make himself feel a bit more secure. And that goes for all 8 of our playoff drivers, of course. If they can sneak a cheeky victory in, it can secure them into the top 4 shootout, of course. So that's going to be the big thing for these drivers, trying to get themselves into that final run to the flag when we head to the final race of the season. So plenty at stake here still. Texas, a tricky track since its reconfiguration, 2.4 kilometers in length, but expect the cars to be struggling out of turns 3, out of turns 2 and 4. The exit of the corners here are very, very treacherous. Back end of these cars will be very, very loose indeed. They can really catch some people out. These cars not the easiest things to control. 160 laps going here tonight, so we are looking forward to this one indeed. As it is Andrew Dyson making his launch away from pole, who celebrated his 200th start in ANZCAR recently. We forgot to mention it, but tonight we can mention it indeed. The 200th start did turn out to be a bit rough, but hopefully it will go better from here. The green flag drops and we go racing tonight here in Texas. I'm going to shut up. Let's enjoy these cars roaring around the track. As they stream across the start-finish line, they all get underway nicely. It's Dyson in the lead. Ruben Phelps moving himself up into 2nd. Worley dropping down to 3rd. Jones and Henderson keeping in position. Stevie Dove moving up a spot as well. Big mover is Jai Schultz working his way through the field quickly up into P11 at the moment. Really, really strong start there for the Inside Lane Productions car of Jai Schultz, flying his way through the field. So we should expect to see these cars having a fairly decent stint out here for the first run. They should be able to make it to about lap 55, 60 with a tank of fuel without too much issue. It's going to be tyres that are the things that really can be a struggle around Texas. the right front and most of all the right rear is going to be the things that really take the punishment through this track. Speaking of experience in the Xfinity car, a little bit of a different vehicle, but it really was a nightmare to drive last night in the Xfinity round. Before this race, is a little bit of contact there for Tomlin into the wall. Nice job of keeping that car in the right direction. But these cars can be very tricky to get around Texas, and as I said, it can really punish the rear tyres in these cars. Andrew Dyson coming off a win last night. He managed to just beat Barry Neal, who we saw competing in round number 1 of the chase season and taking out victory. But Dyson out there tonight is going to be looking to run through the field. And the DPR cars out in strength tonight as well. Quite a few cars from DPR now involved in the series, which is what we like to see. We like to see some teams growing in numbers, and we like to see new drivers coming in. SRM having a good run through the field, as well as the solo man in the casting couch entry, Mr. Dave Douglas, also working his way up nicely, up 3 spots into P7 at the moment, carving his way through the field. And the number 10's been on a bit of a run recently, especially in the playoffs. Could he be the dark horse to take it out? We won't try not to put the curse on him, but we'd like to see Dave in the Final 4.
Yeah, I think he's pretty strong at Phoenix as well. Like, I know Texas here is definitely a strong track for Dyson. I think it's one of his favourite tracks, I think, at the moment. So no surprise to see him out front there. But yeah, if Dave can make it to the Final 4 at Phoenix, he's pretty strong there. I'm not sure if he's won in the Cup car. I know he's won a few Xfinity races in Phoenix. He likes the new configuration there.
Yeah, it's one of those tracks that suits his driving style, and slightly shorter track can help pay off with that one. Neil Pearson just took a heavy lick into the wall out of turn 4. Quite a lot of damage down the side of the red DPR entry, and that's not what you want early in a race here at Texas. If you damage the right front suspension, you could be in a whole heap of trouble. It really does hurt the car, and you do not want any damage. Some good racing going on between Sheridan and Jai Schultz at the moment, and the Cobalt Racing entries. New this season, the 2 Cobalt cars, but they've been having a stellar season and really knocking on the top 10 door at most races. It's good to see some new faces into the championship and having good results through their early stages. And they've been racing hard all season and really constantly on, but just inside the top 10, just knocking on the door. Very nice to see. Another man, as I said, on the move is Jai Schultz. He's really flying up the field at the moment in the 27. Of course, all the Canadian fans will be cheering on for that one, of course. But he's having a nice, solid run at the moment. And again, some really good pace early on. Just got to be careful here at Texas not to burn up the tyres too quickly. So sometimes you can have those really fast runs and just slide your way through the traffic and think, yeah, I'm making good progress here. But then when you get 30 or 40 laps in, you just drop like a stone. So hopefully that's not the case at the moment. And he's just pacing himself just enough to get that car working, but also making up the positions.
So you see sort of coming under attack here from Bowen. Yeah, you're right about those Cobalt cars. It's been interesting and good to see that as the season's gone on, they have got better, faster. So yeah, hopefully they can keep improving on that and yeah, start getting out there and battling for wins.
Absolutely. It's always good to see some fresh faces working their way through the field, and knocking on the podiums and knocking on the winner's door is always a nice thing. Jai Schultz taking his first win in the Cup season this season as well. That was great to see. It's been a pretty dominant year for DPR so far, but few drivers have managed to take the victories from them, which is always nice to see when that happens. And that man, Ruben Phelps, was one of the SRM crew that managed to do that, of course, and lock himself into the chase. Would have made it in on points anyway, but just gave him a little bit of breathing space in there, and he's starting to catch up to Andrew Dyson now. A slower start for Phelps. He just let the tyres bed in a little bit slower, just got them up to temperature a little bit slower, and just relaxed it a little bit, and it's paying off now as he's starting to close the gap on Dyson.
Yeah, just with DPR, they certainly adapted to the new rule set this year the best with the in-car changes during the race. SRM, I know they did a lot of hard work as well, and they've sort of making headway on understanding changes to make on the car as the race goes on as well. So yeah, the other drivers are hopefully learning and catching up as well.
Absolutely. We've seen a couple of drivers get away with not making changes and getting some good results and even wins, but it does help an enormous amount if you can tweak the car to your liking during the race and actually make it work. And we've seen that, as you said, with DPR, they really did. Out of the gate, they took advantage of that. And I know they do a lot of open setup running in full race leagues as well, and that would help them just get a bit of an understanding of how to set the car up, how to tweak the temp, how to tweak the tire pressure, how to tweak the bump in the suspension, and just get it working perfectly. And these little things can make such a big difference in a race car. And understanding them is not the easiest thing to do, because you sort of read it on paper of how it works, and you look down and you go, okay, higher tire pressure means I'm quicker over one lap, lower tire pressure means I'm faster over lots of laps. But it doesn't always work like that. Sometimes you just got to find those sweet spots. And, you know, the drivers that have managed to get that working have really made some big differences in the championship.
And learning what your driving style is as well, I would imagine, plays part into it. You know, knowing how your driving style is going to affect those setup changes.
Absolutely. You know, you can add a little bit more of a tail happy car, a little bit of a tighter car. You know, you can tweak it to your style as well, and that makes a big difference. But being able to drive around those little tweaks and setups also makes a big difference. Knowing just what they do and just how they improve your driving style is a big factor into that one, because it's all these little things make a bit of a difference. Some good battling going on down here. Kobe Jordan, Lachlan Urquhart. Watch out for Kobe Jordan in the 080. He had some really good pace here last night in the Xfinity car. Seems to be really switched onto this track, just able to make it work. And he is absolutely doing that at the moment, putting Lockie under all kinds of pressure. A little bit further up the field, it is Alexander Sheridan just losing a position to Neil Pearson now. Pearson on the move, working his way up through the pack a little bit and starting to go hunting. And watch out for Christopher Island just behind there as well. One of the newer DPR entries in the ANZCAR series, and Christopher Island having a stellar run through the field, up 6 positions so far in the white, red and black DPR entry.
Yeah, I just having a bit of think about what might be going on with Neil there, or Pearson, because he's just been sitting outside the top 10 all race, and I'm not sure if he's struggling for pace overall, which I don't think he would be, but maybe there's a bit of strategy going on there. He's just sort of saving for the first part of this run to see if it has a really long-term effect, positive long-term effect on him.
Could be indeed. A little bit of contact further down the field. Lachlan Urquhart had a little moment with Luke Crum going through 3 and 4, and just looks like they've made a little bit of contact. Urquhart's just gone down, and just turned Urquhart just into the pit lane a little bit. He managed to save the car. Didn't lose too many spots, but a bit of a dramatic moment. Good job that everybody made it through relatively unscathed. But yeah, little accidents can happen very quickly when you're running on a track like this. So we'll see if we can find that replay, and I'll let Matt do the hard work in the background.
hasn't even triggered an event to go back and look at. So
drat.
Yeah, it would take me a bit too long to manually hunt through for it, I think. So.
It's nice when it triggers the event. It's not so much fun when it doesn't. So yeah, just a little bit of contact. Looked like Luke just got a little bit wiggly in the tail of the car and just made contact with Lockie going through the corner. So just a tiny little bit there, more racing than anything else, than anything deliberate or sort of accident mode, because they made it through very much unscathed. But it did drop Urquhart down a couple of spots, so he's going to have to get that car resettled. And of course, the other thing it does when it spins a car like that, when you get a bit of a slide, it heats up the tyres. So it'll take a good 3 or 4 laps for that car just to settle down a little bit and get into its right operating temperature.
He's also another one, I'm not quite sure whether he's playing strategy or not. I would expect him to be up a bit more near the front on pace alone. So yeah, I was wondering if he was hanging back a little bit for strategy purposes as well.
could well be. Some good racing going on for the 10th spot at the moment. We've got Neil Pearson, well, old man Neil Pearson, I should say, with Jai Schultz. Old man Pearson racing away there, trying to tell Jai Schultz to get off his lawn. Oh, yeah, he's got a new nickname. That's great. But racing hard there. Christopher Ireland following through well as well. And I'm sort of watching these cars, and Ireland's done a really good job of sort of copying his team leader's sort of approach and lines and things like that. They've been working very well together, and you can sort of see them just feeding each other information and learning from Neil Pearson, which is not a bad thing, because Neil Pearson sort of brought in a lot of those road races and people that have the experience on the road tracks, and sort of got them very, very quick on the ovals indeed. A little bit further up, there's a good race going on between Henderson and Bowen as well. Bowen making a move on Brenton Henderson across the quad oval, easy for me to say, and just gets himself ahead of the SRM driver, driving the Alopecia Australia Foundation colours in that car, and very nice striking car it is. So we're starting to get some good racing here. Lap 26, and this is usually where people start to just fall off the cliff a bit with their tyres, and where you start to struggle a little bit if you've pushed a bit too hard, and then those drivers with a little bit of a fresher set of boots start punishing you and getting past very quickly. As we say, air temperature's not too bad today. It's a relatively cool day in Texas, only 22 degrees 22 degrees in the air. 31 degrees track temperature. That's going to cause a little bit of overheating on the right rear, but not too much. It will be fairly a little bit less punishing than sometimes we've seen out here.
Yeah, I thought I would just quickly check the temperature and see what we're dealing with. I mean, I think
we've got a caution.
Oh,
we've got a caution coming out, and it is between Quio and Crum. And Quio and Crum just made contact again, going through 3 and 4. And unfortunately for the 42, just sent him sideways. And, he just avoids the wall. But slides and skids. And unfortunately does it on the racetrack. Nobody else involved, no major damage. So that's some good news for everybody. But it has brought the caution flag out on lap 28. So let's see the replay here. Quio goes down the inside, goes nice and tight. No room given by Crum. And they make contact. And you just get the feeling that those two have just got a little bit of red mist between each other.
Yeah, I don't think they're really giving each other much room at the moment. Perhaps not that happy with each other. But we see Lockie just locks it down there. Doesn't lose too much time.
Yeah, it's sort of quite lucky, very much just avoided the wall and got away relatively unscathed in that one. Unsurprisingly, everybody's going to be coming down pit lane now. Of course, 5 sets of tyres for the race, and they can make changes in pit lane. So imagine everybody's going to be chucking on 4 sets of tyres, chucking in some fuel as well. But they're also going to be just doing a couple of little tweaks here, just probably lowering the pressure a little bit on the right side of the car, maybe upping a little bit on the left side, and just giving it a little tweak here and there. And the car that it really, I'd say the person that really came undone by that was Norman Clark, who was making his way through the field at a relatively good pace and rate of knots. He'd done a lot of saving in the early stages, and doing his usual Norman Clark thing of everything coming to him in the latter stages. Jai Schultz only changing right sides, I'd say, has leapfrogged him into the lead.
Interesting roll of the dice.
Yeah, I'm just looking actually. I don't think he took tyres. Of course, we have to say, we'll caveat there. Maybe it didn't quite register for him because he's going very, very slow. And something
kind of issue.
Yeah, something has gone wrong somewhere along the line. It wouldn't be out of fuel. So unless he's got a penalty to start at the end of the line.
End of line, yeah.
That would be even worse news for him, not taking tyres. Because he's going to come... Is he going to come into the pit lane again? Yes, he is. So he must have got an end of line penalty. and has decided to bring it back into the pit lane. So interesting, strange but interesting. Some kind of issue there, I would say, because it's taking a bold gamble of not taking any tyres, which I would be very bold at Texas, because yeah, it's not going to go well. Limited sets, it might pay off, but when you've got so many sets, it's probably not worth that gamble. So I'd say maybe something went wrong. The car wasn't registering, getting tyres or something like that. We have seen with iRacing sometimes it has little issues of not quite accepting your choice of tyres and things like that. So he'll better get back out on track and get back up to the rear of the field relatively quickly as well. So it's painful because he made up a lot of positions in that run, and he's got to do it all over again. Dyson now in the lead for the restart. He's going to be pulling it away up front with Ruben Phelps on his outside, and then there's a whole sea of DPR cars behind him as well. So going to be interesting to see how this one pays off. Neil Pearson lost a lot of time in that pit stop as well, so he didn't have the best pit stop either. So we'll see how that one plays out. Pace car pulls in, and we're about to go back to green flag racing here at Texas. Dyson's going to lead them away into the restart zone. He goes. When does he put his foot down? He does it now. Catches Ruben napping. Phelps gets caught napping there, unfortunately, and that boxes up that high line very, very quickly. Gives Worley the opportunity to dart past and get up into P2 as they race away through turns 1 and 2, side by side at the moment. Good lot of cars trying to get position early on in this race. I wonder if Neil Pearson had to get some repairs done, because he took take a massive lick into the wall, and I wonder if he was stationary for a bit longer getting some repairs done to that car, because he seemed to be stationary for an awful long time as they get back to racing here. 128 laps remaining here at Texas, and it's Dyson in the lead, Worley in second, then it's Phelps. Dave Douglas having a little bit of connectivity issue, jumping in and out of the world, and not sure what it wants to do, but it looks to have settled down a little bit, which is good news for Dave and everybody else out on track.
Yeah, I was thinking that, with that pit stop with Pearson, that he might have taken the opportunity to get a little bit of cosmetic damage repaired, because we, as I say, I think we saw him hit the wall, maybe pick up a bit of damage, and he might have just taken the opportunity to get that repaired.
Yeah, he was stationary for about 27 seconds, so that usually tells me that either you've had to get a quick repair done, or you've needed a quick break from your seat and had to take a quick stand and maybe a run somewhere, but usually that takes a bit longer. So definitely something just had to get tweaked in that pit stop. Good run for Worley here. He's worked his way back up into second place ahead of Phelps, who's been dropping like a stone at the moment. Just dropped in behind Dave Douglas, but we saw this in the last run. Ruben was a little bit slower at the start, but then really picked up the speed in the latter half of his stint. So could be again just going a little bit slower as Worley takes a huge whack into the wall there, and that is going to be another nasty one.
Tomlin spinning in the background there.
Does he save it? He does indeed. Good news for Tomlin there. He managed to get the car back on track. Let's see what happened there to the 212. Just stepped out. And this is what we were talking about at Texas, Matt. It is very, very easy for the car to just go around on you, especially through 4 and 2. Just gets a little bit tail happy, and the back wants to overtake you at this track. It's a really tricky thing to get right, and you might go lap after lap after lap of the same throttle, and then if you're just a millimetre wrong on your line, it will catch you out and really snap you around. And look, this modern Cup car is not the easiest thing to correct in a slide like that. In the older generations past, you could usually catch a slide like that quite easily and keep the car pointing in the right direction, but this new car with its rear diffuser with a bit more downforce at the back, it really punishes you when you have a little tail slide.
Yeah, I think he might have been just a little bit too low on the corner exit coming out of 4 there. Sometimes if you go a little bit low and put a little bit too much power on, then you can see the car sort of step out like it did there. But good recovery. Shouldn't be hopefully too much damage. So yeah, he should be able to get back in the fight, and hopefully there'll be another caution around to catch up back up to the pack and make some more positions up.
Absolutely, probably earned himself a couple of pennies there by mowing the lawn as well. So, not all doom and gloom. He's only a couple of seconds off of Norman Clark at the moment, so he shouldn't be in too much of a bad position. He should be able to catch up to a couple of cars, and if he didn't do any sort of major tyre damage, he should be in a fairly good spot. Racing between Pearson and Crum at the moment, and Crum just collects the wall a little bit. Crum just giving the wall a little nudge there as Pearson was going down the inside, and I think Crum just had to go up a little bit higher than he was normally running. They just caught him out a little bit. Lachlan Urquhart working his way up through the pack quickly as well, so that little moment for him didn't cost him too much, thankfully, and it's got him back into the race. I'm sure he would rather have not had that moment, but it could have been much more costly.
It could. I'm just keeping an eye on the timing and see if he gets close to his friend and see if they can do round 3.
The sixth sense of broadcasting just gets you the idea that maybe there might be something in that one. Might be worth keeping an eye on that little battle pack down there, because we know that the red mist can descend on a couple of these drivers, and when it does, you sort of get into this thing, and until you go back and look at the replay, you sort of have it in your mind that maybe what they did was a lot worse or was on purpose, and you go back and look at the replay and go, oh wait, no, it was just a little incident, there was nothing to it. But when you're driving, that doesn't matter. Your brain's going, they wrecked me, they ruined my race, everything like that, and it causes you just to be a little bit tougher around them.
And if you have multiple incidents, it just makes it even worse.
It does tend to snowball, doesn't it?
It does. We might jump back up in front. We'll keep an eye on the timing data and come back and see close up there. But at the front, top 3 is running pretty close.
Once again, we're seeing this with Dyson. He gets a big sort of nice early lead, but then in this sort of part of the race where it's about 13-15 laps into the run, he starts dropping back a little bit and the rest of the field start catching him, and that's exactly what's happened now as they are catching him and putting the pressure on. At the moment, it's Dave Douglas putting the pressure on, but he's got Ryan Jones right underneath the rear spoiler. And Dave can't afford to make any mistakes because Ryan will pounce, and you can see that right now as Jones makes the move, the fresh face to DPR, makes the move down the inside and gets himself between Daiso and Douglas there and into a solid P2.
Yeah, nice clean move there. Got it done nice and efficiently, and I'm sure Dave would have left him a little bit of room, extra room as well. Those two race pretty well together. Just see Phelps is now trying to take advantage of that as well and dive down on the inside. Try and take over the third spot.
Phelps seems pretty comfortable right on that really low line. Dave's a little bit happier in the middle, so you can see the drivers just taking some different lines there, and of course Ryan Jones and Dave Douglas, they work together quite well too. Dave helping Ryan to a victory at a super speedway this season by giving him a little bit of a push, and they work well with each other, those two, so I'm sure they will race each other as hard as possible, but give each other maybe a millimetre more than they would anyone else.
Dave's holding his own on the outside line there though. Back around.
Yeah, his line is really working well for him at the moment, and he's got some really good pace. It's just whether that causes a little bit of degradation on the tyres. You can see Dyson, he's taking a lower line now. He's sort of gone to a more defensive line, just trying to stop Dave from getting underneath him and also go over the top of him. So they're sort of just playing around a little bit, being a little bit more defensive. And look at the run there. Dave got a good run, but all of a sudden the back end stepped out on him, and that lost him all that momentum. And now Jones is going to be looking to make the pounce. One thing you can do here at Texas is if you just get the entry into turn 1 absolutely spot on, it gives you an amazing exit out of turn 2 and gives you a really good run down the back straight. And we're seeing that here. You can really make that work, and it's almost like you're driving in a different car. You're driving with a car with an extra 100 horsepower, it feels like, because you get a huge run onto this back straight, the only real straight of the circuit. But you've got to get it absolutely perfect to make it work.
See Phelps now, yeah, just trying to get the pass done on the inside.
Ruben's running that line nicely at the moment, and he's really taken a much tighter line, and that can be detrimental to your long run as Dave's back end steps out there. Dave has a very loose rear end there for a couple of moments, and that is not what you want going through 1 and 2. And you can see how much momentum he's lost there. He has lost an enormous amount of time just dropping back behind Phelps and behind Jones. And I'm sure he will need a couple of moments just to really breathe and get under control with that thing.
Yeah, Dave's really starting to struggle now with those rear tyres being overheated, I think. He was pushing pretty hard at the front, trying to run in second spot, trying to attack the Dyson, but just not able to, you know, hold onto the tyre life or tyre heat. So I would expect we'll just probably see him here just calm down a little bit and just ride around and try and bring the temperature down on them and have another grip.
Absolutely, as the front battle just eases up a little bit, the battle at the rear of the pack is still absolutely on, as they are racing hard. Crum and Urquio side by side here, going across the quad oval, and Urquio making the move, looking to move past Riley Curtis as well. Really close racing, and they are racing hard down here. This is for 12th spot they're racing for at the moment, and this is the thing you got to love on oval racing is, you know, you might not be racing for the absolute lead of the race, but there is always good racing going on throughout the pack, and that's what we're seeing here. Is Curtis gets a little bit loose on the exit, little bit of a touch of the wall for I think that was let's see, I think that was Luke Crum just giving the wall a little bit of contact there, and that's just cost him a tiny bit of momentum, dropped him behind Kobe Jordan and into the grasp of Sheridan. But Urquio makes his way through nicely, and Brad Fenley's just sat there rubbing his fingers together going, look, you know, you keep up this battle, boys. I'm happy to pick up the crumbs.
Yeah, Urquio's made his way through there. He's now taking off, trying to catch up to the next pack, which is just outside the top 10.
Yeah, he's currently closing in on Brenton Henderson and Philip Worley, who's dropped right down the order after that big hit to the wall. Obviously just took a fairly big whack, and that's really cost him just the drivability of that car. It's not quite as good as it was at the start of the race. And definitely struggling a little bit now is Worley in the 233.
Seeing a bit of smoke around as well on the exit of 4. Just wondering if maybe Dave's sort of had another loose moment there coming out of 4.
Yeah, going for I didn't see anything, but there are a few cars that are getting very close to the wall, and I think quite a few cars are giving that wall a little kiss as well, and that's causing a few puffs of smoke popping up into the air as they rub tyres against the wall and just cause a little bit of a smoke screen behind them. And you know, it just shows how hard everybody's racing out here, of course, because if you can run it up to that wall and be absolutely millimetre perfect, it does gain you an enormous amount of time. And something that we see from the 41 of Andrew Dyson, he's very good at doing that. And just absolutely making it, you know, you sort of watch and you go, oh, he's going to make contact, and he just squeaks through. But it is an incredible skill to have, and it's all about the spatial awareness. As we've got a little bit of the pack closing up here, as Christopher Islands just lost a position to Brenton Henderson, and now they are absolutely side by side, and Urquio's caught right up to this group as well and is thinking about his attack. And this is for P9 for 9th, 10th and 11th spot at the moment, so plenty of action going on throughout the pack now. And we are seeing some really good racing playing up as we're 27 laps into this run, 56 laps into this race. Probably about another 20 or so laps until we start seeing green flag pit stops.
Ooh, someone there just...
Philip Worley looks like he might be pulling the car in.
Okay. I think he's got more contact on the wall. Tomlin's in the pit lane as well. He's got damage on the side of that car too. He might have actually had another incident that we haven't seen.
That may have been the smoke screen. Yeah, Wally's been really struggling with that car. Just watching the last few laps, he didn't make contact, but the thing was sideways throughout most of the lap. And just going back to look at Tomlin.
Yeah, see
what's
this damage.
So lap 52 apparently. And looks like heavy contact into turn number 4. So he's taking a massive lick into the wall to turn number 4. Here we see it. And I reckon that was that smoke screen you spotted earlier, Matt. And yeah, that's really cost him really heavy damage on that car. And I think he's just had to pull it in to get some major repairs done and possibly even pull it behind the wall for a little bit. Big shame there, because when those little accidents happen, they snowball, and it just really zaps your confidence when you're driving as well. You sort of think, oh, I should probably just pull it in and not worry about it anymore. But you need to get back out there, get back on the horse, so to say, and sort of get some laps under your belt just to stop it from happening in the future. It's a sort of a learning experience then, and you never know, you might gain some spots later in the race if other people are misfortunate.
Yeah, we've seen that many times in races, haven't we, where drivers have had an early wreck and they've kept on going, and they might finish 30, 40, 50 laps down, but they pick up 5 spots just by circulating. That's the second one, so on the replay there. So he did it on lap 52 and then lap 54, so that's when he brought him into pit lane.
Okie dokie. Yeah. Look, and that's the other thing as well, is the cumulative damage as well. It does build up in these cars, and the way iRacing works, it does stack up the damage. If you keep smacking the wall, eventually something will break on the car. And even a little tap against the wall, it does change the way these cars drive. It bends the suspension geometry and makes them a lot trickier to handle. And it's not fun driving a damaged race car. It really ruins the experience. Some good racing going on here between Dave Douglas, Maddie Ray, and Stevie Dubb. This is the fight for P4 as Dave Douglas just flicks it in and out of existence there. Just deciding to see whether he exists or doesn't exist. But luckily he comes back out on the track, and this is shaping up to be a good battle. And sitting right on the tail is Shane Bowen as well. Bowen's just sitting there going, yep, you boys, you just keep battling this hard. I'm just going to sit here and let you burn your tyres up, because they're going to take advantage of that. As Stevie Dubb makes a little bit of contact with the wall, I think, and just cost himself a tiny bit of momentum. No, he just had a bit of a step out, sorry. He went to that really high line, and once you get out high here at Texas, you get onto that horrible detritus of the marbles and the track and all the little bits of rubber and the really nasty bits. And it's almost like driving a ship around the place. You have no steering whatsoever when you get that high here at Texas, and it is a horrible feeling to have.
Dave's cutting in and out there.
Yeah, he's having a bit of a Blinky Bill moment, but he's actually gapping these two, so that's good news in a way, because it means he's not really in a problematic area, so he can keep on running. But once they start getting side by side with him, that's where people will start to say, look, Dave, you're blinking a little bit. Do you mind just ceding the position? As Stevie Dubb somehow kept that car from wrecking, drifting around turn number 2. The back end was full out there, but he's still carrying around the speed. So Stevie Dubb able to run the high side. It's not looking comfortable though, but he is making it work.
Yeah, it's Speedway styling on the right rear tyre.
See it once again, just gets it round. A little bit more, a little bit calmer that time round. The back end was not fully out, but he's had a couple of big ones where he's really been extra sideways. Brad Fenley may have had a big swipe off the wall. He's had a bit of contact, so bit of a moment between himself and Luke Crum on the previous lap. So let's see the replay of this one, the Aussie Beer Motorsport car, and Luke Crum in the Inside Lane Productions car. And Christopher Island's also brought it into the pits. So lots happening at the moment, but we'll catch this replay real quick and see what damage has happened here. Fenley is having to pull it in, I think, to get some major repairs done. But just going through turns 3 and 4, and looks like Crum's just washed up a bit into Fenley there, and then up on the quad oval. And that is a horrible place to hit. There's a lot of damage you can gain in that spot.
I think Crum's car just wiggled a little bit on corner exit. Just got a little bit loose here off turn 4, and it sent him up just enough to touch Fenley there.
Yep.
Ouch.
And that is a painful one, and a shame for Brad, who was chugging around and just keeping the car in a safe position and just keeping up speed. I wonder what's happened to Ireland as well, because he's had to bring it down into the lane in the 623. I'm just going back to see what happened on that on my screen and see if I can pick up anything. But he's got a little bit of damage. So I think he's just had a bit of a moment and just had some damage on that car. So he's had to bring it in. And Philip Worley, I think, bringing it in to park it as well.
I think he's parking it for the night.
So attrition is starting to kick in now, as we're seeing some people really struggling. And this is a part of the time where it will struggle a lot. And you're seeing Norman Clark now. He's starting to work his way up through the field. And this is exactly what he will be waiting for, is a nice long run like this. He will have kept those tyres with a little bit of meat on them and taking advantage of that pace now. He's a bit like a steam engine. You know, it takes a little bit of time to get him up to speed, but once he's there, he is absolutely flying. And Norman Clark just moving past Jai Schultz up into P12.
Schultz coming under attack from Sheridan as well.
Yeah, Jai's not had the speed we saw in the earlier stint, and he's starting to struggle a little bit on those tyres as well. He's very close to the wall. I wonder if he's gone the wrong direction in the setup, because, as we say, you can tweak the car's setup in the pit lane, and he's just not had the pace in this stint. So I wonder if he's just gone a little bit in the wrong direction, and it's starting to affect him, because we're starting to see some cars moving up the pack now as we get into the part of the long run. As we say, we're 43 laps into this stint now, so we're starting to see the people who have got the car set up for a long stint get the speed out there and start to progress forwards. We'll also start to see some green flag stops happening from this point onwards as well. Andrew Dyson's got it set up beautifully at the moment. He's got a 3.8 second lead over Ruben Phelps in second, who has just about a second over Ryan Jones in third, who himself has a couple of seconds over Matty Ray in fourth. So we're starting to see the front spread a little bit more in this run, as the rest of the pack is still very close together and very tight and very racy as well. So plenty of action going on, and working his way up nicely at the moment, I've got to say, is Lachlan Urquio as Stevie Dub pulls it into the lane. So the first of the DPR cars in for the pit stop, you've got to say. So I don't see any damage on Stevie Dub's car, but you must say, with the amount of drifting he's been doing, the rear tyres will be a little bit worse condition than some of the others, I'd say.
Yeah, and I think from my experience with Stevie, he is quite willing to try the alternative strategies as well. So he might be looking at splitting the remaining laps in half.
Yeah, we've got
more evenly down the middle, is what I mean. Sorry.
Yeah, we're sort of at that stage. We've got 85 laps remaining. They're 46 laps into this stint, so you're sort of at that point where you go, yeah, just about make it home on one more stop, but you've just got to get it in a nice position to work it out. So he's going to have nice fresh boots now. He's going to be able to take advantage of the undercut. We see Pearson in as well in the 62. He's going to be another car that's going to have some nice fresh booties on it and should get a little bit more pace and close the gap a little bit until the rest of the cars come in and get their tyres up to temperature.
Be interested to see how many laps they go down green flag pitting. 1 lap at this stage. It'll be interesting to see if Pearson gets past a second time. I think Dyson's coming out of exiting turn 2.
Yeah, it's about the back straight between Pearson and Dyson there. So it sort of might find some of the other drivers a little bit further down the field. They're going to be dropping a fair bit further. Currently just a single lap being lost, but you might find as Dyson pulls in into the lane. Dyson is into the lane with Jones. Ruben Phelps sticks it out there, gets himself a bonus point, and is going a bit longer in this stint. Maddie Ray's pulled it into pit lane. Shane Bowen's sticking it out there. So we're starting to see the sort of maximum runs they can do.
Dyson's got to get held up a little bit.
He is.
He had Riley Curtis was coming out of the pits. Just on his regular scheduled pit stop, nothing wrong with that, and yeah, just the timing unfortunately didn't work out for Dyson. He had to sort of like check up a little bit so to make it in, but I'm sure he would have lost less than a second doing that.
Yeah, it's not going to be a huge amount of time, but every second counts in a race. That's the thing. That little bit of advantage of stopping a lap sooner than Phelps will be sort of lost a little bit. So that could see Dyson just losing a little bit of time here. So it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out, because Phelps is in the lane at the moment getting his service done. If he gets a really nice sweet pit stop here, he could find himself closing the gap on Dyson a little bit, and he'll have slightly fresher tyres too. So it could be in a fairly nice spot as Dyson goes rocketing past. Phelps leaving the lane. So
pretty much identical.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the times, 14.7 box stationary time, and yeah, Phelps was about 0.6 of a second faster. Absolutely
nothing between them. The pit lane transition time, I've got 38.8 for Phelps, 39.4 for Dyson, so that's where the time really came stuck a little bit. And that's what cost him that little bit of time. And look, this has helped Jones jump Phelps for position because he came in that lap sooner. So it has closed the gap a little bit, but Dyson still has about 5 seconds in the lead. So he's got a comfortable margin at the moment. Jai Schultz stuck it out there and managed to do an extra lap. So that's nice and gives him a little bit more wriggle room in the next stint. So he can extend his stint a little bit and maybe catch a lucky caution. But that's also given him a lap lead point as well. So a bonus point under his belt, which is always nice to have.
Those chase drivers, yeah, the round of 8 drivers, they will be wanting every point they can get. So it's worth them losing a couple of seconds just to stay out an extra lap and get that bonus point.
Very much so. Stevie Dubb managed to make up a few spots by coming in early, but he's starting to get passed by a couple of those cars, but he's up in 4th at the moment. He's right behind Ruben Phelps, and there's not much difference between these tyres, and you can see Stevie Dubb, he's going to have slightly warmer tyres as well, so for the next few laps or so, they're going to be pretty equal footing, and if Stevie Dubb can get past Phelps here, that could be a real problem for Phelps, since you can see Stevie Dubb making the move, and that's going to drop Phelps right behind him, put him in the dirty air, it's going to put him in hot air, and that's going to make the car a little bit twitchy, a little bit less fun to drive, and also use those tyres up a little bit quicker as well. So Stevie Dubb doing a great job there, moving himself up into 3rd.
Just makes extra work for Phelps, doesn't it? He's got to work for getting past one more car now, eventually, to get back up there.
Absolutely, and there's a couple of laps difference between the tyres, so Phelps should have some better pace in the long run, but it does mean he's got to do some more work to get past that car, and that could really put him in a unenviable position later on. Neil Pearson is back on pace. Old man Pearson working his way through the field nicely and getting up into 7th position. and he is battling it out with Dave Douglas at the moment, putting all the pressure on Dave. And looks like the tweaks they've done to the car this round of pit stops has really made the car a little bit better for the DPR drivers.
Yeah, possibly using those extra cars for data to help with making those calls and adjustments.
Teammates are very, very useful to have for that kind of data, and yeah, it's paying off nicely at the moment because they are working well together, and it's what we've seen this season with that general change of settings and allowing people to tweak the car setups. It has meant that the big teams have been a little bit more competitive than the solo runners, but we have seen the solo runners still managing to get some good results, but it just, that little bit of extra brain power of extra teammates has paid off for sure.
And it would also help that if you had teammates who aren't running for a championship, they can sort of try the weird settings and give feedback on what they do. That might help the lead drivers.
Yeah, for sure. It's useful having some sacrificial lambs sitting there and being helpful. Although, you know, they're not going to really give them a horrible setup. They're just going to make it so it's a little bit more. Could be a setup that might work for some people, not for other people, and just doing those little tweaks to see. And it really does pay off, you know, just having that extra person just to give you an idea of what is working and what's not working. And as he said, trying those slightly weird setups, it is a really helpful thing to have, because in practice sessions, you can practice and practice and practice and get a fairly good idea, but you don't get the full idea because you're not running with other competitors on track and you're not getting the same sort of attack from other people. You're not having to run the different lines as you pass people. So, you know, there are all these little things that come to play in a race, and having some extra people on hand to get the race setup working can really, really pay off. And it's paying off at the moment for DPR because they've got a lock-in at the top three. It is Dyson, Jones, Williams leading the pack away. Phelps and Maddie Ray for SRM are the next two cars, and again, a large team running in those positions. Then it is Neil Pearce, Maddie Ray for SRM are the next two cars, and again, a large team running in those positions. Then it is Neil Pearson sitting in sixth spot. The first of our solo flyers is Dave Douglas sitting in seventh position. And then it's Lachlan Urquio, Brenton Henderson for SRM. They've worked their way up nicely through the field. And finally, Shane Bowen for Cobalt Racing, rounding out the top 10. Henderson's having another strong ride tonight, and it's great to see. It's the 81 of Brenton Henderson's been having a really solid final year, or final few races of the season. Been great watching him just get a bit more confidence and improving in that car.
He's definitely liking this track for sure tonight. He's been running pretty strong all night. Must be a favourite track of his, or one that suits his particular style.
Yeah, it definitely seems to be paying off at the moment. It's just got past his teammate Urquio, and Shane Bowen just did the same as well. Bowen moving up a spot and having a really strong drive in the 308 too. Riley Curtis as well, he's on the hunt in the 093, and of course, best looking car on the track, the 093 with Riley Curtis. No real reason for that, but we just know it's the best looking car.
Probably got the best sponsors as well.
Absolutely.
It's one of the best sponsors.
Always helps get you a little bit more airtime on the track. That sponsor, I hear. Up front, there's been a move for third position. It's Ruben Phelps now. His tyres have started coming in good. The temperature's gone up. They're sitting in a nice working condition, and they've got a little bit more meat on them as he's just managed to sail past Stevie Dubb, and he's working his way up towards Ryan Jones now, seeing what he can do. Matty Ray a little bit further back was also in the hunt as well, and he's bringing Neil Pearson with him. So remember, Pearson and Williams were early in the pit stops, so they've got a little bit longer on their tyre runs, and that could affect them later in the stint. And they'll also have to come in a little bit sooner than everybody else as well for that final stop. So if they get caught out by an unlucky caution, they could be in a really bad position.
And Matty Ray before just came under attack from Pearson, and he's managed to hold that off hold that attack off him, and so we're now just building the gap again. So I wonder if Neil's sort of used his tyres got maybe a little bit too hot trying to pass Dave, battling with Dave, and he's just had to sit back and cool them off a bit and then come back for another crack at Matty Ray later on.
Yeah, we do see this with the tyre temperatures. You know, you have those couple of laps where you can go full out attack and really have some good moments, and then all of a sudden you just hit that heat, that point. They turn into this horrible gooey mess and just no longer work, and you have to really back off and just run around at a sane pace, so to say, just really ease the tyre off them. It takes a good 4 to 5 laps to get them back into an operating temperature that's comfortable. Dave just has a couple of little blinks there again, but keeps the car in the right position. Has got nobody battling with him, so he's not really too concerned about that one. So just glancing through at our other competitors in the playoffs. Currently, the lowest sitting competitor is Jai Schultz, down in 13th position. He's down there sitting behind Norman Clark, and just seems to be struggling a little bit, Jai, in this stint. He came in sort of about 16 laps ago. He was the last car to pit, of course, but he's just been struggling a little bit in these early stages. I wonder if he's taking it a little bit easier, just to try and get a better run in the latter stages, like this man Norman Clark did last time round. So see if that one can pay off. Norman Clark, sitting down in 12th position at the moment, is just taking it fairly. Oh, Riley Curtis just has a huge moment off turn number 2 there. And he manages to save the car, but that's going to be putting him into striking distance of Clark, who's going to be coming back at him very, very quickly. But the two drivers, they're sort of sitting in the playoffs at the moment. They're down in 12th and 13th spot. And then next up, it's Lachlan Urquio. So a few drivers wanting to improve their places for sure in this chase, in the playoffs, I should say, because they need to get those points underneath their belt to make sure they can get into that final run in the final few races of this season. Stevie Dubbs just really started losing pace down the order. He's just dropped right down and just lost a huge amount of time to Neil Pearson and Dave Douglas, who's just jumped in front of them. Douglas is just towing Pearson along at the moment and having a solid run, although his internet is still being a little bit sporadic, you've got to say. He's been having a couple of big nasty dropouts, but so far, touch wood, it's holding up, but it is just going to be causing him and everybody else around him just a little bit of just eating away a little bit at them, as they'll hopefully it will start to run a little bit smoother.
Just having a bit of a chuckle at the timing data, because Dave's blinking in and out. iRacing's getting a bit confused with his timing data. The lap before that he did, it was only 2 seconds, 2.1 second lap. And then oh, who was that? That's just got into the wall.
That was Matty Ray just collecting the wall there. Odd mistake from Mr. Sheen there.
Yeah. Doesn't seem to be any damage to the car, that right side.
A tiny little scratch I can see. So he has scratched the paintwork. Now that is just... that's just not good enough. Not good enough. That's it.
Not keeping up with his reputation, his name.
Absolutely. I mean, just disgraceful. We're gonna have to look at changing that now. No, it just got away very much unscathed. Just a little tiny scratch against the wall. So good news in that respect. But again, you've got to be careful. You don't want to have too many of those little touches against the wall.
No, I'm still seeing Pearson sort of drop back now behind Douglas, sitting in 6th, so he seems to be conserving the car somewhat.
Not his usual pace right now, Pearson. He's sort of been just struggling a little bit, and I wonder if Texas is one of those tracks that's just not quite his cup of tea, because he's just not really seemed to have the usual sort of pace that we expect from Pearson. We sort of, as I said, he's coming off of 2 wins on the trot, isn't he? So he's been having a fantastic chase so far, a fantastic playoffs so far, but just been struggling a little bit tonight. But luckily, it means that he's still inside the top 6, but just struggling a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at his lap time data, and he's running a good half a second off, so he's obviously having a little bit of trouble compared to Dyson at the front on just holding on to that tyre life. In terms of outright pace on a single lap, it's right up there, but yeah, it's the pace on the long run that he's obviously struggling a little bit with tonight.
Yeah, and I wonder how much of that's to do with that damage he received earlier on in the race, because even when you get these cars repaired, they're never the same. You never get it back to how it was at the start of the race, and sometimes it just does not want to work for you, and it just causes a little bit of issue. Racing going on here between teammates as Quio and Henderson are fighting out, and then just ahead is Stevie Dubb and Shane Bowen, so lots of action here inside the top 10. This is for 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th position on track, and plenty of action between those cars. They are racing each other very, very hard, which is what we like to see.
Yeah, Bowen's another one just slowly working his way up. He's up 4 spots. Doing a good job.
A fairly quiet night, but that's what you want sometimes. You sort of a quiet night can be a good thing in a race like this, because you just quietly work your way through the field and get yourself into a nice position. It's always a nice feeling when that happens, and he is closing that gap on Stevie Dubb at a decent rate of knots, so should be up and past Stevie Dubb in the near future. Just watching a little bit further back, and Kobe Jordan's made his way past Jai Schultz as well. And I said watch out for Kobe because he's got some really good pace on this Texas track, especially in the long run, and it's paying off once again. He's up 7 spots from his starting position, second highest driver climbing through the field. The highest at the moment is Neil Pearson, so lots of fairly decent runs through the pack so far tonight. But the action right here is between Stevie Dubb and Bowen is looking to make a move in the 308, gets down on the inside, going to try run off that tighter line, but we've seen Stevie Dubb able to make that high line work lap after lap after lap, and he is doing it right here again. The beauty of running that high line is it gives you better exit speed, so you might lose some pace in the entry and the mid corner, but once you get onto the straights, you just rocket down there and you get some good pace, and that's exactly what's happening here. Bowen went for the tighter line, and that left him vulnerable to Lachlan Urquio, who's now looking to make the move.
That's the thing you got to watch out when you go for that. You lose that momentum on the low line, and Lockie has stayed on the high line and he's able to get past. But if he tries to do the same move on the low line, he will probably lose momentum, and Bowen will be able to get him back on the outside.
Oh, Stevie Dubb's back end stepped out there, coming out of 4, and somehow he managed to save that car, but he's lost a whole heap of positions. Big loss for Stevie Dubb there. The back end is just stepping out of him. We've seen him have a few moments like that in this race, but that time he did not catch it, and that was a big run across the bumpy quad oval section, mowing the lawn there, Stevie Dubb, and that's dropped him down into 10th position, right into the grasp of Norman Clark. That was a huge loss, and that's a big shame for Stevie Dubb. That could have been a nasty accident there if he'd lost it going across the quad section, and sort of ended up losing the rear more, because he would have gone into a whole heap of cars. Really well held there by Stevie Dubb, but he's going to be ruining that mistake for sure, as he's lost a whole heap of positions, and it almost dropped him outside the top 10. And well, with Norman Clark closing in as fast as he is, he surely will be dropping outside of the top 10 in the near future. That's been good news for Lachlan Urquio, because it's given him a nice bit of clean air between himself and Neil Pearson now, so he can try and close that gap. Not far between those two, only about a second. So Urquio is closing that gap at a fairly decent rate of knots, and should be just within striking distance of Pearson in the next few laps, and maybe even catch him before they go down pit lane.
Don't imagine they'll be too far away from coming down pit lane again to Pearson and Williams.
No, they've got about another 5 laps before they come down into the lane. As Norman Clark makes his move on Stevie Dubb, moves himself up into 10th position. That's the long run that starts to pay off for the 09 Black Arrows car of Norman Clark. So yeah, we're going to see the final pit stops happening in the next couple of laps. They can make it to the end, well, from just about this lap here. So we'll see the final stops happening any time from now, you've got to say. As Quio looking to make the move. 2 drivers in the playoffs as well. So this is crucial. If Quio can find himself ahead of Pearson, this could be really good news for him, because Quio's down quite far down in the standings. Pearson currently leads it coming into this round. So getting ahead of this man is really crucial, and he does it. Down the inside he goes and makes the move. Stevie Dubb, Jai Schultz into pit lane for their final stops. Jai Schultz coming in early this time round. He left it a lot later last time, so he's decided to bring it in now, try for a bit of an overcut on the drivers. He won't need to take as much fuel, but he'll need to take all 4 tyres. Stevie Dubb as well coming in. He's going to try and recover from that big slide he had and see what he can do. And I imagine it won't be long until we see Neil Pearson bring it into the lane, because he's really starting to struggle with that car. Been a very clean race so far. We've seen just 1 caution. A couple of little taps here and there, but no accidents taking cars out, just single car moments. We have lost Philip Worley, Brad Fenley, Christopher Ireland from the race. Christopher Tomlin is the final runner at this stage in the 2-1-2. He's down at 13 laps, trying to close the gap on Luke Crum, who is 5 laps down.
Well, Crum might have picked up a penalty. Or damage.
Yeah,
long pit stop.
I would have to say it was probably it doesn't look like damage to me. It looks more like possibly a penalty or something maybe happening with his rig, because he was stationary. He was in there for about five minutes. So it sort of maybe some kind of technical issue there for Crum. That's a shame for him, because he was having a solid run through the field.
Yeah, he was really good. He was on the lead lap, and then all of a sudden, just 5 laps down. So something's gone wrong there for him.
Something obviously not quite working. Brendan Henderson's all over the back of Shane Bowen at the moment, and he got past, and that's given Norman Clark the opportunity as well. Look at there, Norman Clark catching up to these guys and closing the gap on them. At the start of this race, I'd seen Norman drop down to the back of the grid, but as always with Norman in the long runs, he's just getting pace, and it's almost like momentum. He just starts to get momentum, and then you can't stop him as drivers coming into pit lane, and Dave Douglas locking the brakes up, I think, coming into pit lane. Or no, it was Ryan Jones having a big lock up coming into pit lane, and he's got to be careful, because I think he might be close to actually just nipping the speed limit, and he might be finding himself with a penalty. We'll find out in just a couple of moments. Looks like he got away with that one, so it was very, very touch and go for getting a penalty there, but he just about squeaks it through. And Dave Douglas also making the stop. As Henderson makes a move on Pearson, and Neil Pearson's going to lose a couple of positions here as they go underneath him, and he's just going to lose another spot to Bowen as well. And Pearson just taking it as long as possible. I think he's going to try and take it as long as possible, try and have the freshest tyres towards the end of the race, because he's just been struggling for pace at the very end of those long runs. So trying to get the best tyres possible, I think, for Pearson, who comes into the lane now. Norman Clark also came into the lane. So we've got the pit stops happening throughout. So 2 ways you can go about it. You can come in early and try and get the overcut from people, or take it as long as possible and try and have the freshest tyres to the end of the race. And sometimes that can work out very well for you as long as you can close those gaps. So it's all about the pace that you can do. Neil Pearson, a nice pit stop there, gets it in and out very quickly, makes his marks nicely, and is coming back out on track. Still got a couple of cars circulating before their pit stops happen. One of them is the leader, Mr. Andrew Dyson. He should be coming into the lane in the next lap or two in the 41 DPR entry. We shouldn't be too long until we see this car popping down the lane, getting a little bit of go juice in it and getting back out on track. And I think we're about to see that right now as he gets off the line, gets into the pit lane, slams on the brakes. You've got to get that car down to 72 kilometers per hour before those yellow cones. Getting it down the lane, and feels like forever as you slowly roll down the lane here at absolute minimum speeds into the lane and then into your box. And this is always a hard thing to do. You've got to dive in there and get the car stopped right on the marks. The closer you can get it closed, the better it is. Of course, when you're actually in the car, you see your pit crew, so it makes it a little bit easier to find your box. And then getting out of the lane, you don't want to spin up the tyres too much. You want to just get out there nice and easy and get back out on track. And that's exactly what Dyson has done.
Phelps is in pit lane, as is Matthew Raymond. And Henson as well, so that will complete the pit cycle.
That's the SRM Mobile Brake and Mechanical Team's pit stops done. So that's everybody done to the end of the race now. And, our final pit stop's over and done with. Let's see how this shakes it up throughout the field, because you're going to see a fair few positions change throughout the rest of the field, but up front it's still Dyson in the lead. He's got a 7-second lead over teammate Ryan Jones at the moment in second. Ruben Phelps comes out third. Dave Douglas just pips Matty Ray and then gets himself forward as Matty Ray's just coming out of the pit lane. Stevie Dubb making his way up into 5th position as well. So Stevie Dubb managing to gain back some of those positions with his early stop. So it's sort of working out at the moment for Stevie Dubb, but remember his tyres will be falling off a lot quicker than some of those other cars. He's done about 12 laps compared to Ruben Phelps, who's just done the 1 lap on those tyres. Matty Ray sits in 6th position at the moment. That's where he started. Could be where he finishes, but I'm sure he'll gain up a couple more positions. Riley Curtis in the 093 making his way up nicely through the field on that pit cycle. He's just in 7th position ahead of Neil Pearson in 8th. Then it's Jai Schultz, who also took an early stop. He's battling it out with Lachlan Urquio right now. 27 and the 42. Both drivers in the playoffs battling it out on track. Jai Schultz on much older tyres. He's done about 13 laps. Lachlan Urquio has only done 4 laps on this stint. So this is fresh tyres against old tyres. Tyres that are up to temperature versus tyres that are still just getting there. And Urquio makes a big lunge down the inside, works his way through and moves himself up into 9th position. Jai Schultz drops down into 10th spot. Currently inside the top 10 though. That's the most crucial thing. Driver that did well through the pit stops, working his way up the track. But of course, as everybody else's tyres get into that threshold, then things will change up. 31 laps remaining so far for this race tonight. We are quickly coming to the end of tonight's round here at Texas, with 6 more left to go. Well, there are 5 more left to go, I should say, for this playoff season. So we're into the final 30 laps here, and this is where concentration and tiredness can come into effect, and where you can get caught out by some little moments. It sounds it can sound a bit funny when you're talking to people about sim racing and it being a tiring sport, but it does absolutely involve as much concentration as the real thing, and there's a little bit of physicality in it as well, depending on what wheel you're using, what force feedback you're using, things like that. And it can really start to get to you at this stage of the race because you've been concentrating for so long All it takes is a brief lapse and you can find yourself having a big accident. And this is usually where we're going to see people having those little moments where the brain just switches off for a microsecond and they end up having a silly mistake.
It's very easy to do on such a long race like this. It only takes one little mistake, like a speeding down pit lane, although all the green flag pit stops are done. But yeah, one little mistake coming off turn 4 and slamming that wall, as we've seen tonight from multiple drivers, that can do enough damage to really ruin your race.
Absolutely, and we're seeing some really close racing at the moment as well on track, and one of those battles is Shane Bowen and Jai Schultz. Bowen just making his way past Jai, moving himself up a position. A little bit further up the field, it's Dave Douglas and Ruben Phelps fighting it out for P3 as Dave Douglas's car just quickly dips into the never realm. So there's a lot of hard racing going on. And look, the other thing as well is the aggression level gets turned up at the end of the race. So you're a little bit more tired, you're a little bit less fresh, and you lose concentration a little bit quicker. But also your aggression gets turned up. So it's always the thing of, you're more likely going to see a bit of an accident later in the race because of those little things coming into effect.
And you're less likely to give racing room as well at the end of the race. There's no point, racing tight and close early on in the race. But when you get down the points end, this end, that's when you go for it.
Absolutely. And we've just seen two cars doing that a bit further down the field. Norman Clark up into P11 with Brenton Henderson following him, just sliding their way past Jai Schultz, whose tyres are starting to fall off that cliff a little bit, and there's nothing he can do right now. And he's just going to have to sit there and just sort of hope for a late caution. I think that's the only thing that's going to get his race back on track.
Yeah, he's really struggled tonight, hasn't he? It's been surprising to see a number of round of 8 drivers having a bit of a struggle tonight. Jai and Neil especially having probably the most prominent ones having issues tonight.
Yeah, very much so. And, I was talking to two-time champion Edward Foster, of course, the Godfather, Mr. 53, who is still busy studying and still busy, being a nerd. So that's always good to hear. But, talking about just how tiring it was just taking those championships. And again, it is a virtual racing, it is virtual motorsport, it is a virtual thing, but everybody takes it very seriously, especially when you're going for a championship. You do take it seriously, you do tend to practice harder, you do have those little things going through your mind. And it was just saying how tiring it was battling for those championships. And at this stage of the season, these drivers have been battling very hard, and then they've got 5 races left to go with that fight as well, and it all comes into the mind. And you might be having a bit of a bad race tonight, and that can really play at you for the next week or so. There's a lot of fatigue, stress, and there's a lot that goes on in racing a car, even in a virtual racing situation.
Yeah, and with this new format as well, with the rounds and the eliminations, it's quite interesting. Last week there was, if cards had fallen a certain way last week, one car gets up and races it, gets up and wins the race, and another car has a bit more trouble. We could have had defending champion Dyson drop out in the first round. So it's definitely added a new dynamic to it, and they need every point they can get. And not so bad now with the first race out of a set of 3, but Talladega next week, that could be a lottery for most people. And then the third one after that has been the real crunch time.
Absolutely, and so true. I mean, we saw just how big of an effect it had on the 2 Natari cars of Hederscheid and Joshua Carroll-Walden. They both got penalties after the first race of the playoffs and found themselves on the bench for a race, and it just absolutely ruined their chance for the championship just from little mistakes in the races. And that can happen to any one of these playoff drivers as well. If they have a bad night and they find themselves getting a penalty or something like that, and a penalty that sees them on the bench for a week, that could really just completely take them out of the championship. And, well, coming up to Talladega, coming up to a super speedway, we've seen Andrew Dyson. He's had some moments at super speedways where he's been caught off guard, and especially with drafting, it's caught him out. And could we see a similar situation from him as we see Norman Clark here battling it out with Shane Bowen and working his way inside the top 10? But it's that easy to happen, Matt. It just takes one bad round, and all of a sudden you can find yourself looking from the outside in and in a bad situation.
Yeah, especially in a place like Talladega as well, where you have, it's just wrong place at the wrong time, and you're done. If that happens, then you're pretty early on, and you end up finishing way down the order. Yeah, and you could be in for a really interesting time.
Absolutely, but I wouldn't write Dyson off completely for the super speedways, because we've seen what he can do, taking that absolute mega win at Daytona, of course, where he had about one wheel left on the car. But it is a bit of a lottery sometimes, and it could be any one of these guys that gets knocked out because of that super speedway just not falling in their direction.
Well, the thing as well is he's on track to win this race tonight, which will lock him into the next round anyway. He'll be the only one who can go to Talladega and not have a worry in the world.
That is true.
Run in the front, and if he gets turned and wrecked, shrug his shoulders, and it doesn't matter. He's on
skip
the next
off.
one. Yeah.
You can skip away happily and just go, well, it's not my problem. That is absolutely true. I completely forgot about that one. Because that is so very true. Winning this race is so crucial coming into the super speedway. Because you're going to find yourself locked in and in a really strong position, as somebody's had a bit of a trip across the grass, I think, or maybe locked up coming into pit lane. Christian Tomlin locking up into pit lane. He's had to come in for a final stop, unfortunately, which has just really hurt his night. Same as Luke Crum. Both those drivers dropping multiple laps after an incident or something happening to them. But their night's just gone from bad to worse in these final few laps. Of course, Dyson's not got it locked in at the moment. He still needs to lead for the next 15 laps. And crucially, on that final lap. So, if a mistake comes in, he can find himself not locked in. And that would be a stress inducer there for sure.
Yeah, and he's starting to catch some more lap traffic as well. And we've seen in the past where lap traffic goes wrong. And can take out a leader, so it's never over till it's over.
It is not indeed. A little bit further down the field, Stevie Dubb is racing hard with Lachlan Urquio at the moment. The 42 going down the inside across the quad oval and making the move. It's been Stevie Dubb just gets contact with the wall going into turn one and just gets the car unsettled. It's been a good recovery night for the 42 tonight of Urquio. We saw him going around and bringing out the first caution and only caution of the night. But he's come up through the field nicely. He's sort of managed to reset himself and get himself back in the car and just get himself into the race. And mentally, that's such an important thing to do. And that's such a good thing to see from Lockie. Just getting himself reset and back into this race. Because he's managed to work himself up 8 positions so far. And he could well get past Neil Pearson at this rate as well. He is closing on the 62. Stevie Dubb get back up in the wall, going through 1 and 2, and that's just cost him a huge amount of speed. As the 98 loses positions here, he's going to lose a spot to Norman Clark. Is he going to lose a spot to Brenton Henderson as well? He is indeed, as the leader just goes past as well of Andrew Dyson, putting Stevie Dubb down a lap.
The difference in tyres is only 10 laps, but it's really starting to kick in now. He's done 33 laps on these tyres.
Yeah, he's definitely struggling, and it's just, I just wonder if the drivability is not there for people like Stevie Dubb and Neil Pearson. Obviously they've got a good setup working for them, as you can see with Dyson and Jones up in first and second. But for those drivers, it just doesn't seem to be working, as Shane Bowen's looking to make the move on Stevie Dubb as they get so close to the wall of 4. But they are racing hard for that final spot inside the top 10. Shane Bowen wanting to get 10th spot at the moment, and looks like he could do it, as Stevie Dubb is struggling out there in the 98. The Mean Green Machine of Stevie Dubb just about to fall down a position as they drag race down the back straight side by side. Bowen got the preferred line, you've got to say, and he's looking to make the move. Could well have it here, and he's trying. Stevie Dubb doing another great job of holding it up on that high line. But we know from experience it tends to heat up that tyre a little bit quicker, and you can find yourself with a big wiggle.
Yeah, Bowen's giving him lots of racing room as well. and he's got the job done now.
Nicely done. And yeah, as you said, very respectful move there from Bowen as well, just giving him all the room in the world. And I think that's also a wise thing to do when you know you're racing a car that is on much older tyres and is going to struggle to sort of, you know that car's not going to be easy to drive. Giving a little bit of extra space is such a good idea because it just gives that driver a little bit more of a chance to fight, but it also means there's less chance of an accident happening. So probably the closest battle at the moment, one of the closest battles is going to be between Urquio and Pearson. This is the fight for P6 as it stands. And they are racing very hard with each other. And Urquio is really catching on Pearson, who is just struggling to get that car stuck again. Back end stepping out. He had to make a huge correction, just counter steering that car. And as I said last night in the Xfinity car, it was a really tough night for myself. I was having to counter steer through every time I got through turns 2 and 4, and it looks very similar to what Pearson's dealing with tonight.
And then Lockie also had a moment on entries of turn 3 as well. So not sure if he clipped the apron or something happened there, but yeah, they're both having a moment there as Neil scrapes the wall a little bit. It's very close to it.
Nothing between the wall and Pearson there. It's close as you like it, and they are really going hammer and tong. 7 laps to go. It is all on at the moment, and this is crucial, as I said, for Lockie. You know, if he can get ahead of Pearson, that's going to help him out if it is a points count for the chase, for those final rounds in the playoffs. Because again, we saw Lockie getting through with points last time round. He was so consistent on his points throughout the season. If he can get another consistent run like that, he could be in with a really good shot of finding himself in that final 4 for the playoffs.
I think Neil Pearson's also pushing pretty hard as well, as he's got the leaders, Dyson, coming up behind him. I'm sure he doesn't want to be lapped. Oh, gets it sideways there. Still
and again, yeah, that's going to be bugging him as well. That's going to be really niggling at him if he goes down a lap to Daiso, because the first person you've got to beat is your teammate in any motorsport, and tonight Dyson has just absolutely been on it, you've got to say, and Pearson is really struggling with that car. That rear is not looking stuck at all. Those rear tyres are screaming out in agony, and he's doing such a good job to keep it going at this speed, because he is constantly correcting it and constantly sliding it out the corner. Beautiful throttle management there from Pearson. Really well driven, but you've got to say, it's going to be hard to keep Lockie behind him at this rate because he is struggling so much, so close to the wall again. This is really hard fighting, and maybe Daiso's just got to go, maybe I just won't bother lapping you two. I know that's not how he thinks, but you would just maybe take a second glance at this.
Yeah, from the language of the... Yeah, I mean, if I was Dyson, and given that he's got a 15-second lead, I'd be just sort of backing off a couple of seconds and letting these two just sort themselves out. But Lockie's just not in a position to capitalise on it, and Neil is really struggling with every corner exit.
And with 3 laps to go, he's running out of time for it, and Pearson's doing such a good job of defending right here. And Dyson can really help out Pearson here by lapping Lockie. You know, it's... Again, just so close. You know, Lockie's not going to be making it easy for Dyson either. This is real fighting up the front of the field. Dyson just slides it through beautifully there. It just shows how much speed Dyso's got. He's just got extra speed to burn as Pearson collects the wall, gives the wall a tap there, and that's going to be painful as Dyson comes around to take the white flag. And we are on the final lap here, and Neil Pearson going to be losing that lap to Dyson. I think that's a wise thing to do, rather than chance it for another lap of defending against Lockie. Just let Dyson go through and take the lap lost, because Andrew Dyson is going to take the win here for round number 30 of the season. It is the 5th race of the playoffs, and he takes victory tonight and locks himself into the final 4 Ryan Jones is going to be coming up for P2. He's just got to make it through turns 3 and 4 now in the yellow DPR car, and he comes home for P2. Another solid run from Ryan Jones. Ruben Phelps comes home in 3rd position for SRM, who have a strong night with Maddie Ray coming home in 4th. Mr. Dave Douglas brings the casting couch home in 5th, the final car on the lead lap. Neil Pearson manages somehow to get 6th. Shane Bowen comes home for 10th for Cobalt Racing, as Daiso decides to do some burnouts and have some fun here in Texas and burn it down indeed. Stevie Dubb comes home 11th with Riley Curtis, 12th, 13th for Kobe Jordan, Joey Schultz 14th, Alexander Sheridan 15th, 16th for Luke Crum, Christopher Tomlin 17th, 18th for Christopher Ireland, Fenley in 19th and Philip Worley out early doors. And that is that. We are done, Matt, as, well, another thrilling race comes to an end. And look, really good job from all of these drivers tonight to make it with just the one caution.
Yeah, nice, good green flag racing there. A little bit of give and take, and near the end they got a bit more racy, and a lot less give and more take at the end there. But that was a really good battle, especially between Lockie and Pearson as well at the end there. That was really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely. Some really good driving there, and that's what we love to see. Good battling as well. And I do not know how Pearson got that car home. That was really good driving from everybody tonight. Some really heroic stuff out there. It's what we like to see indeed. But a solid night for some of the playoff drivers. Let's just run through the playoff positions in the race. It was Dyson coming home first, then it was Ruben Phelps, Matty Ray, Dave Douglas, Neil Pearson, Lachlan Oakvio, Norman Clark. That's our 7 drivers. Yes, 7. I'm doing maths in my brain and it's not quite working. And then Jai Schultz, he came home 14th. So a rough run for Jai tonight. It was a really rough night, but hopefully he can bounce back a little bit next time out and get some better positions, because I'm sure he will not be happy with that one.
No, I think I expect him to really have a good crack at Talladega next week. Lining up with his teammates, I think they'll have a real big crack at trying to win Talladega and get through to that next round.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge thing next time out at Talladega, because as we always say, look, a super speedway is a bit of a lottery, and securing a win there could be a fantastic job, and it really anybody's chance to do it, and no disrespect to some, sort of say Norman Clark or Lachlan Oakvio, they're going to be a little bit more struggling, and Jai Schultz, of course, they're going to struggle to get through to the next round of the playoffs with sort of positions they've been sort of finishing in recently. So just getting that win and locking themselves in could be a fantastic, a really solid thing, and that could be crucial for their season run.
And also having strength in numbers as well. So be pretty hard for maybe Norman. He won't really have any allies out there to work with. Dave will be okay.
As well.
Yeah, Dave will be alright though, because everybody knows Dave is Mr. Super Speedway, so everyone wants to work with Dave.
Well, everybody knows Dave as a pusher, not the pushy. So that's the problem Dave has. He is always pushing. He never gets the chance to be pushed. So hopefully, some of those alliances he's made throughout the year of being a good pusher will pay off, and he'll get some help from some other people.
Yeah, if you want to win a super speedway race, get Dave Douglas right behind you, pushing you. That's your best chance. Other than that, it's the other drivers will have team members that they can line up behind them. That whether it's a case of running out the front and using up all their fuel as a sacrificial lamb for them, or whether it's having someone right on their back bumper pushing you until their motor blows from overheating. You need teammates in those super speedway races.
You do indeed. So let us start with the interviews tonight. We're going to start off with the SRM teams, Mr. Ruben Phelps in the 06, the Flying Kiwi himself. So we will bring him up to the booth and start our chatting tonight. Ruben Phelps, welcome back to the booth, mate, and congratulations on a solid P3 here at Texas.
Cheers. It was definitely a long race of. Actually, to be fair, it was a long race of just driving by yourself. Really, it was half entertaining, but pretty cruisy.
I was going to say it was a bit of a lonely race for you because you sort of you sort of had some good racing early on, but then after the final sort of set of pit stops, the final couple of stops, the green flag stops, you sort of found yourself out on your own a lot. So it's always tricky when you're out in that position because you sort of just have to twiddle your thumbs and just keep going.
Well, exactly. There's like I don't know what was with the car at sort of the start, but it seemed to have pushed the right front a lot. But then once I got to the second half of the race, the pace started coming in, which, obviously you just sort of balance it out a little bit and frickin', it just sort of started getting the pace back. But by then you're sort of racing by yourself, so you can sort of just run your own little pace and then, you can take off near the end of the stint. But, third place, it was consistently there, or second place, third place, it doesn't matter. It was there the whole night, so I can't complain.
No, absolutely. And well, I mean, second place out of the chase, well, the playoff drivers as well. That's not a bad position to be in. I mean, you managed to finish ahead of everybody bar Andrew Dyson tonight, and that's going to be some good news, at least for the points perspective.
Well, exactly, because this was the particular round that I wasn't really too fond on. It was like get the result at Texas, and you never know what you're going to get at Talladega, and of course, the road course pace has been good this year, but one little mistake you make and you've crashed or hit the wall somewhere, and you miss out on the opportunity if you do make that mistake. So I'd rather get the points and have the result to sort of save myself. But thankfully, I'd done that tonight, which I exactly wanted to do, and um, get through Talladega and that next week. And once we get to that last part, I'm a lot more happy with the tracks we've got.
Absolutely. Look, it was a very solid night, and also for the team as well. Again, getting all the cars within the top 10 tonight. I mean, a really good result for SRM.
Exactly. Now the boys have really been putting the work in, and of course, me and Maddie, probably have a little bit more time than most at some points, but like just talking about things and understanding about what we do on the track and just making these adjustments, it's going through us, and it's going through our heads pretty nicely, and we understanding what to do, and it's working.
Absolutely. It's always nice if you know what to do and it's working. I mean, that's even better.
Exactly. But on top of that, it's just, try and put the pace into it. The setup might be good, but the pace and driving it's the another story altogether.
Absolutely. There's no point in having the best setup in the world if you can't manage the pace. And well, you've been managing the pace well so far. Look, fingers crossed for Talladega next time out. As we know, it's an utter lottery. But having a few teammates by your side, that must be making you feel a little bit more confident.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I know it's super speedway racing. You never know what you're going to get, but if you have a group like a team that's sort of behind you, of course, it becomes a team race rather than an actual race, which is kind of sad in a way because you want to have a really good race, but when you've got four or five guys sort of as a team, and then you've got maybe two guys that have like what themselves or two drivers, it's sort of they can't really do a lot, but. I mean, with DPR and that, they've got what 4 or 5 guys as well. So they're a pretty strong team, obviously. So having that extra couple of cars always makes a difference.
Absolutely. Look, I'll do you a bit of a favour. DPR win next time out at Talladega. There you go. Put the curse on them, so at least you got an opportunity now.
Yeah, there we go. That's exactly what we want.
You're welcome, Ruben. You can pay me later. Congratulations tonight, mate, on third. Before I let you go, the usual thing, the love, the shout out to sponsors, people in general. Go for it, mate. You've earned it.
I got to shout out ANZCAR for putting everything on, and of course you guys for putting the broadcast on. It's especially the Cup Series, going back and obviously watching it. Of course, SRM Australia, of course, Matty Ray, the leader of it. So putting it all together this year, it's all chopped and changed to what the team was used to from the last few years. But now we're actually really putting the numbers down. So as the more it happens, the more stronger we get. But of course, our sponsors of John Labor at Mobile Brick and Mechanical, Dan Hurley of Maid of Auckland Hotel, Raymond P. Moondog, Murphy's Mitre 10, and our charities of alopecia and Tourette's syndrome Australia.
Awesome work. Thank you as ever, Ruben. Welcome. It's always a pleasure having you in the booth, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you back here very, very soon.
Yeah, for sure.
Ruben Phelps there for SRM coming home in third position tonight. Next up, it's the man that we expect to be in second. It's always nice to see him up there. It's Mr. Ryan Jones for DPR. Ryan, welcome back to the booth, mate. Congratulations on your traditional second place.
What's going on, boys? Yeah, that's 4 P2s in the last 7 cup races I've done, so starting to rack them up.
At least you're consistent. That's the main thing.
Yeah, really struggled with the cup car for the last 2 years, and I think starting to turn that around. But Jesus, I don't know what the hell's Daiso's on another level, so I don't know what I got to do to beat him.
It's tricky, isn't it? You're sort of going, I'm going to join his team. That might help me beat Dyson. That might help even the player feels, oh no, it's not helped at all. He's still quick.
Well, it's helped. I beat everyone else out there, but Daiso's great everywhere, isn't he? But there's a couple of tracks. He's a bit of an assassinate, and this is one of them.
Absolutely. It's always bad when you're at one of his good tracks because it makes you feel so much worse about yourself. But as you said, it was a really strong showing from yourself tonight up into P2, and you're pretty much running there all night long. I mean, you worked your way up nicely through the field, had some good battles, but once we got to those long runs, it looked like your pace was absolutely on fire.
Yeah, it's pretty lonely. It's not much enjoyable race out there, but I just had to sort of look after the tyres. My tyre wear was really good. I had less tyre wear than Daiso that second last run, but for some reason I couldn't get the pace out of it at the end of the run, and Ruben was catching me, so I was just mindful of him to the undercut from in front to make sure he couldn't pass me, and then just tried to look after to the end, and he got pretty close, but finished ahead of him.
Well, that's the main thing. I mean, it doesn't matter how close they get behind you, as long as you finish ahead of them. So that's the main thing. And you managed that tonight. Again, as we said, it's been a really strong few races for you in the Cup, as well as everything else. But obviously, getting those podiums since joining DPR, that must be a nice feeling to sort of have that bit of team support there and show that you absolutely are worth your pay grade.
Pay grade?
Yeah, you got to talk to Pearson about it. Obviously, he pays all his drivers. I hear.
I've been done dirty. Yeah, no, it's great. Helping me out. Daiso's been on in the chat a couple of times for a few of the Thunder races I've done, and sort of, I don't want to say coached me through it, but just had a few words here and there when I've been leading late in the Thunder races, and Jason's all over me, and it's good to have that experience and just going back and forth in the Cup races. The setup changes are massive, and it just, I don't know, it just seems to be clicking a bit more for me in the Cup series now, and now I can finish P2 in every series.
That's it. That's what we like to see. As long as you finish second, we don't want you winning anything, but second is fine. Just going to the setup quickly. I mean, it looked like the car for you guys was working really well for a couple of you, but some of you like Neil, Christopher Island and Philip Woolley, obviously they'd made contact with the wall, but they just weren't switching on for the really long runs, whereas you and Daiso just absolutely had it handled.
Yeah, I think Daiso made some extra adjustments. Neil, we all ended up on slightly different setups at the end. I think I sort of left it for the last stop. I think Daiso made a couple more changes, and I think Wally and Chris, once you knock that right side in, it's not much you can do, right? Doesn't matter how many setup changes you make. You're screwed. So, big shame for them. Wally was super fast tonight when he put up P2 in qualifying, and Chris is continuing to get better and better. And I'm thinking of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is on the cards next week. We're going to Talladega.
Absolutely, off to the super speedways next time out, and look, we know you're pretty good on a super speedway. You've been good at doing a little push here and getting a little push there. How are you guys feeling heading into that one? Are you going to be sort of playing the sacrificial role, so to say, to make sure that, say, Pearson gets through, gets that victory, or are you going to be more so racing for yourself?
I don't know. We've had a discussion. I've got 2 more chances to win, or 3 more chances maybe to win in the Cup Series this year. And Talladega. I've led a stupid amount of laps at Talladega this year, so I think it's my best shot.
We will wish you luck. Fingers crossed for next time out, Ryan. Congratulations tonight. Before we let you go, personal shout outs. We'll make Daiso do the hard work of all the sponsorship and all that stuff.
Yeah. Excuse me. Big shout out to the rest of the boys out there in DPR tonight. Chris, Wally, Neil, Stevie Dub, and Daiso, of course. You boys put on a good show. Keen to go back and see what you said. And Mum watching on as always, a silent fan club.
The Ryan Jones fan club applications are approved in the mail. Congratulations tonight, Ryan. Thank you so much as ever, and I'm sure we'll see you back in the booth in no time.
Cheers, boys.
Ryan Jones there for DPR, coming home in P2 tonight. And finally, for DPR, it is the Orange Machine. It's the 41, getting his first victory in the playoff season. It's Mr. Andrew Dyson. Dyson, welcome back to the booth, mate. Congratulations on the win here at Texas Motor Speedway.
Thanks, boys. It's good to be back here.
It's good to have you back, and it's good to have you back on form as well. It's been a little bit of time since we last seen you getting the victory.
Oh, I wouldn't say it's for a lack of form. I think there's just a few things that haven't gone my way, but that's racing.
It is indeed. Sometimes it doesn't always go your way. You know, occasionally you have a bit of a bad run. It's not very often though. Tonight you were just on fire. I mean, what's your secret at Texas? Please let us know, because we would like to be quick as well.
Well, I don't think it's really got much to do with me, but I think no one likes this track. The general consensus is that not just amongst ANZCAR folks, but around the world, apparently, no one really likes Texas except for me and apparently Barry Neal. But you rush off tonight, so that helps.
Yeah. Barry wasn't here, so the one person that might have been able to take it to you. Texas is a tricky place, though. I mean, we tend to find the back end is a little bit tends to be a little bit more on the wiggly side, and you tend to be quite good at driving a car with a wiggly back end. Does that sort of help a bit?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, this track is very front tire sensitive though as well, so you kind of got to be on top of both ends of the car to make sure it stays underneath you as best as possible. So I don't really know what any sort of secrets are. Yeah, it's just one of those tracks, I suppose.
It's one of those tracks that clicks with you, which is always a scary thing. Obviously, getting that win, you must be a little bit more relaxed now that you've got the W next to your name.
Yeah, that's good. But I mean, yeah, it's good. But yeah, nothing really changes. You kind of just got to be consistent still, don't you? Get some good points, go on to the next round, go again.
That's it. Well, the good thing is, though, you've got the win for the next round, I'd say. So, a little bit less stress for the next couple of races, especially, well, as we know, it's a super speedway coming up next.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a lottery.
Yeah, that's probably the only one that's kind of, I mean, of course, you'd have a bit of pressure on yourself if you had some bad races and you'd really need to win it in at Roval. But yeah, good to get this one done. You can just sort of, err on the side of caution at the next two races and good to go.
Absolutely. Look, it was a solid run from you tonight, as we said. Very well done. Obviously, coming up to Super Speedway next time, and then it's off to the Roval, and you have a little bit of form at the Roval.
Yeah, had some good races there. But yeah, there's always a lot of fast dudes who roll up, and just need to get out there and do the best I can, and hopefully that can be a first, because that's what we're all here for.
Absolutely. Look, I'm not going to bet against you at all, but it will be fun to see how it goes. Again, congratulations tonight, Daiso. Before I let you go, though, the love, the shout out to the sponsors, to the fans, you get to do the hard work because you won it.
Yeah, I'd assume it's that. So yeah, cheers to all the boys in DPR for coming out for races. Thanks everyone for coming out for race tonight too, and sticking it out for the end of the series. Good to see a few folks still coming out, so that's great. Thanks to South Wales, Simrigs, Ben Max, and Petty Designs. A bit of extra work lately with a few new cars coming out, so love his work with that. Yeah, cheers to you guys on the broadcast, everyone at ANZCAR for putting it together. And I suppose we truck on. Look forward to next week now.
Absolutely, and also a little belated late congratulations on your 200th start for ANZCAR as well. It's hard to believe that it's only been 200, because it still feels like you're one of the new guys, but you've been here for so long now, and you've been very, very consistent in your performances as well. We were chatting the other night about some of the winning statistics, and you've been very, very good on that front.
Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah, it's quite good to. I suppose it does feel like I'm still sort of new, but been around for a while now, so I can't really. I mean, there was a long time ago where I had to stop using the excuse of I'm the new guy here. But I mean, it's funny. You're constantly learning. There's always something different you work out at each track, especially now with this setup change stuff. There's always something different to find out, and different lines to take, and how to attack and how to defend. You're always picking up new information, so it's on for the next 200 races now, I suppose.
Absolutely. Look, we want to see more success coming for you in the next 200. You didn't win enough last time, so go harder. Congratulations tonight, Daiso. I am sure we'll see you back in the booth in no time, and well done again on the victory tonight here at Texas.
Cheers, boys.
Andrew Dyson there for DPR, the orange flavoured DPR car, taking victory at Texas tonight. And as I said, Matt, it just secures him in to that next stage of the playoffs. So a little bit less stress, but we know how Dyson goes. He is not going to be taking it easy next time out.
No, definitely. He's got even better, opportunity now. He can really go for a health lever at Talladega and not worry if he gets wrecked out at all. Whereas everybody else is going to have that nagging little worry in the back of their mind.
Absolutely. It becomes a little bit more of a lottery for the rest of the drivers. A big thank you to everybody for joining us tonight. Always a pleasure to have you with us here on Performance E streaming to bring you the Cup races. We are done and dusted here tonight, though, for tonight's race, but we will be back with you on Sunday night with the Australasian Supercar E Series, Matt.
We will, yeah, and heading to. Actually, I'll bring it up. Heading to the second road course of the that season, Watkins Glen. So that should be pretty interesting and fun.
Absolutely. We are looking forward to heading to the Glen, and that's going to be an interesting race for everybody. And look, we know there are some road course specialists out there, and they are surely going to be absolutely delighted to be heading to Watkins Glen, a track that not everybody loves, but it does bring some really good racing. So we hope to see you there on Sunday night for that one. And then, of course, back here on Thursday night for the Talladega round of the ANZCAR Cup. The playoffs are coming into the close now. We are getting very close to the end of the season. A big thank you tonight, as I said, for everybody for joining us, and of course to Mr. Matt Hunter doing all the hard work in the background on the cameras and joining me in the com booth tonight as well. So from myself, Carl Wilkinson, we're going to wish you all a good night, and we'll see you back here soon.